questions like, what is the low bidder's price? What is the low bidder? Which is the low bidder? How much did you add for this? That kind of stuff. It is not, the proposals do not look like the real life ugly versions that I've given you in class. I have created a standardized, completely made up set of one-page proposals from 3 contractors that you'll need to go add up and look at stuff. Because they were made up by me. All the information is fairly clear on there, easy to identify. They all have the same format. It's a dumbed down version for a test setting, is what it is. So it is probably the most difficult portion of the exam, but it's a lot easier than most of the bid tabs you guys have seen so far. Okay. Now, a couple other things about it. First off, I would recommend that you guys bring some color pencils or highlighters. When you're reading through it, you can highlight important stuff on there. That is helpful. Definitely want to bring a calculator. I've done the checklist portion of it. You're not being given a scope of work. What you're being given is a completed checklist with 15 items on it and spaces for 3 subs. You just need to check for those checklist items on those subcontractors and add money or subtract money as necessary to make a good decision. Okay? I think developing the checklist is the part of the bid tab that scares you guys the most. That part's been done. All I'm asking you to do is to interpret correctly the proposals. Jake?
Same assumption that if it's not excluded, then it's included?
Yes, sir. Same assumption. So anybody didn't hear that? If it is not specifically excluded or in conflict with something else in their proposal, we're going to assume it's included. Okay? That said, I tried to draft these to where things were explicit. So I think you'll have less trouble with this. It's up to you and your test style whether you want to go straight to the bid tab or leave that to the last. It is worth 4 questions out of 40, so it's 10% of the exam. I'm going to have staplers at the front so you can pull apart the test. That way you can sort the proposals as necessary. You can write all over the bid tab, that kind of stuff. You're going to have to staple it all together and turn it back into me at the end of the exam. Okay? All right. Rest of the exam, I think I'll cover pretty well as we go through this. The one thing I won't cover is you should go back and take a look through the last couple of assignments we've done, the facade and the site assignment. And there's some basic olive familiarity questions on there as well. Okay? So hopefully, if you guys have been doing the assignments, the olive familiarity questions should be gimmies. Okay? If you've been relying on your partners to do the assignments, which is probably mostly the people that aren't here, it may be a little more difficult. So
any square footages we need to know?
You should pay attention to some of the pricing you've gotten on some of these assignments, and I'll be talking about the right answers today in class as well. So, and Jake, let's talk a little bit about strategy on that just for everybody. I don't necessarily expect you guys to memorize every price and every number we've gotten on something. But when I give answers, I usually give like $2, $10, $25, $100. I mean, I give wildly different numbers. So if you guys would take a look at your assignments and memorize 4 or 5 things on each assignment, I bet you would give yourself enough context to narrow it down to the right answer. Okay? When you're looking at, how much did plaster cost on this job? Was it $1 million, $100,000, or $10 million? Maybe you didn't memorize plaster, but you memorized lap siding or something like that. You saw that's $500,000. We had a lot more plaster. Okay, maybe this is $1 million rather than $100,000 or the $10 million. Okay. Maybe you go, well, $10 million, man, that's the structural concrete package. I remember that number. Is plaster going to cost what the structural concrete does? Probably not. Okay. I'm trying to get you guys to start establishing yourself some context on what things cost and a basic familiarity with the project, because you're going to need that in real life. Okay? I'm not trying to be tricky and say, was it $11 a square foot or $12 a square foot? That's not my goal. All right, let's do our review.
So we started the second half of this semester with insurance, bonds, some calculations. I don't ask me anything about this video.
It was just there for getting a point across and livening up an insurance lecture. You should be familiar with the characteristics of insurance, two-party agreement, that kind of stuff. Later on in this slide, there's a chart that compares and contrasts the insurance with the bonds. That's an important chart for you guys to know, okay? You should understand, you don't need to memorize definitions, but you should understand what kinds of claims each insurance type would cover.
The good test question is, if this happens on the project, which insurance would most likely take care of it?
Okay? So general liability, GL RAP, OSIP, all these would cover basically the same set of things. That's covering liability on the job. If we drop a hammer and hit a civilian on the sidewalk, it's going to be GL, okay?
Builder's risk is, think of it as property damage. If a tornado knocks down our building, or if that fire happened that's in the video,
that's going to be probably a builder's risk. Like workers' compensation, business auto and equipment insurance, you should know what these are. They're less targeted to construction though, so I think they're probably not quite as important. Subcontractor default insurance, we talked about this, commonly called subguard. It's an insurance that takes the place of subcontractor bonding.
And I said that in the past, subcontractor bonding was very prevalent.
And that's why you hear so much of it, especially from our old timers in our faculty, or anybody that did a lot of public work. But private work anyway, is increasingly being supplanted by SDI.
I did some basic calculations here, and I'm going to expect you guys to do one or two basic sets of calculations related to insurance. The way this will look on the exam is that I will give you values and time periods like this, and I will give you a rate. I'll tell you 95 cents per 100 or 27 cents per 100. So you don't need to memorize these rates, okay?
But I will expect you to know how to use it in a formula like this. It should be a gimme. It's just basically tapping stuff in on your calculator. You might take a glance through to see what reasonable numbers are, because again, when I give you guys answers, a lot of times I give you a few that are unreasonable. And that way maybe it'll save you from being fat finger on your calculator.
Moved into bonding. Bonding was a three-party agreement paid by the job. I know the definitions of principal, surety, and obligee. We talked about various types of bonds. The bid bond, we said that the bid bond, what it does is it guarantees to the owner that you're going to honor your bid proposal. And if you decide not to honor it, you forfeit, or the surety forfeits a fee.
And that's the end of your world, by the way.
It may be a flat fee, or a lot of times, in my experience, for contractors that did a lot of bonded work, the bonding company just gave you this for free and charged for it in their P&P bond. Performance and payment bonds, we said we talk about these like they're one bond, and we often purchase it as if it's one bond, but there's two separate functions here. There's a payment and a performance portion. A performance guarantees the owner from loss if we as the contractor fail to perform the requirements of the contract. The payment portion guarantees the owner from loss in the event that we as the contractor do not pay our subcontractors. Maintenance bond, I talked about this, I don't have an awful lot of, oh no, this one was not that one. Maintenance bond, I said, usually comes up with like landscape, things that we got to maintain through our warranty period after certificate of occupancy. Supply bond, I said I didn't have a lot of experience on this, but I told the story about when might I have used it, and I, thinking through what it does. The 100-foot piece of plexiglass on the manta ray exhibit at SeaWorld might have been a good place for me to use a supply bond. Bond requirements, you don't need to know the name of the Miller Act, little Miller Act, or these numbers here. Just know that public owners are more likely to require a bond than a private owner. Look through who and how do we benefit from bonds. Be familiar with some of the reasons why you might or might not bond. Capital capacity and character, these are the things that a bonding company is looking for when they're pre-qualifying you. So we've got a few slides talking about these. What was the third one? Character. You know, are you the kind of person likely to wear a tank top to the whole class? There you go. It certainly informs us on your character, right?
Slade.
Wow. Just went up 10 points in my
I like to come here because I know he can handle it. He'll be as good as he can get.
I'm the opposite of the soy boy.
Alright, capacity, some of the things we talked about, capacity. Do you have the labor to deal with it? Do you have the management personnel to deal with it? You may be the greatest builder of HEBs in the world, but if you've already got your entire staff out there managing HEBs, well, then you may not be able to handle one more HEB. So there's a capacity that every company has. Okay, reasons to bond. I talked about this a minute ago. You know the reasons why we might need to bond or might want to. And let's get to this. This is my chart I was talking about. There are probably 3 questions, which is a fair chunk of the test, that come straight off of this chart, guys. Know this chart cold. This is to give you some idea of what they are worth. When I get to the next part, we actually do some calculations. I am going to ask you to calculate them on, guys. So understand the math on this slide right here. And then if you knew the ranges on the other one, it would be a double check to you.
You explain the insurance
What actuarially means? Oh, okay. An actuary is somebody that looks at statistics of accidents or deaths to determine how likely they are to happen. So when we say actuarially determined, it means that it's using statistical information on the likelihood of something happening. It's an important concept in all of insurance. The old name for an insurance agent was an actuary. So I got a couple of different calculations, a couple of different examples of calculations there, okay? All right, I don't think we're gonna go through the rest of that. All right, and finally, what RFP is here on the slide. I'll tell you that's the first step in bidding the project, right? Is to get the RFP, determine when it's bidding, where it's bidding, that kind of stuff. And then the first question we have, right? Here's one visible station RFP. We'll get to the first question. Thing used to work flawlessly.
That side doesn't like you.
over there. Okay, I hadn't really noticed the pattern. Maybe I'll stay over here. It's going to be tough. I wonder if y'all seeing. So information could be on the instructions to bidders. How to handle material substitutions that's going to be in there. Whether or not it's a tax project. What the method of award is. Substantial completion dates. Liquidated damage. You see me, I'm already trying to wander over there. Bid deadline. They will be returned unopened if after the bid deadline. On private projects, the owner has the right to reject any or all bids, or take a bid that's not the low bid, or throw out anything that they don't like about it if it's not in accordance to the project documents. Most of this here that I talked about bid forms, it was really geared around getting you guys to understand the bid form on the semester assignment. I don't know if there's a lot of test material on this slide. All right, we get into bid strategy then. What's the first question? Do we bid this or not? And what are some of the reasons why we might not bid it? We might not have the capacity. We might not have the room in our bonding limits. Okay? It may be just too risky of a job. Those kind of things. Yeah, pretty well covered those. All right, so then we got into a couple of different strategies for determining fee. And the first set of examples I gave here, I used a concept that we call expected profit potential, where we factored in the difference between what the job's going to cost and what we're bidding it at, and then factored in the probability. We multiplied in the probability. It came up with a expected potential profit. And I gave you a chart here where I did that on each of these. And we said that, if you're using this methodology, then this 10,000 would be the largest expected potential profit. It's the best marriage of probability with high profit there. Well, we might not get this job if we consistently do that as part of a long-term strategy to maximizing our profits. Then I introduced a second methodology here, which used historical data rather than some ephemeral guess at probability. A lot of ways I like this one better because we have hard data on this, or we can get hard data on this. And this factored our bid versus our competitor's bid. And we came up with this R over C factor, which we said was best interpreted as how much money are we leaving on the table, or how much money do we lose by. Here we bid 4% higher than we needed to. 4% lower than we needed to. Here 5% lower than we needed to. Here we lost the job by 4%. Here we lost it by 2%. And so we averaged all that up and said on average we are leaving 4% on the table. And so based on that data, maybe we look at the next 10 jobs by adding 2% to what we've been bidding. Okay? I want you to be able to do this basic calculation, which is just this divided by this. Okay? And I want you to be able to interpret what this value means. Okay? There are 2 test questions like that.
Are they both on this strategy, or you need to know?
I've got a test question on the other strategy as well. We went through just furthering this interpretation. If we added 4% to all of our bids, we found that, okay, we lost 2 additional jobs, but at the end of the day, we made more money. Yes?
Is this more applicable to public projects?
Probably, because on private projects, you're not going to know what your competitor bid probably. So, and so on a private project, you might decide that you use the other strategy. Okay. And in any event, I told you guys that in my experience, I don't know many people that are actually sitting down methodically doing this. I think we can improve on that. But I think a lot of that gut feeling that an executive goes through when he walks in and says, put 3% on this, is thinking about these concepts of probability and maximizing profit. And so I think it's a useful thing to teach you guys. All right, we talked about unit pricing and balanced and unbalanced bidding. I went through and gave you guys some examples of what this would look like. I don't need you guys to know any of these calculations, okay? Everybody's got their own best way to do it. It's not really a hard and simple mathematical way to do this necessarily. What I need you to know is, when is unbalanced bidding useful? And that was, it's useful in two situations mostly. One, to generate cash flow, and one, if the owner has made quantity mistakes, there's a way for us to capitalize and maximize our profit on it. So that's really the question, is understanding why we would do this rather than knowing the math behind it. We had a good discussion on its ethicality. As I recall, Jake thought I was an unethical bastard. No, the reality is that we came to the conclusion that reasonable people can disagree on this. And so I'm not going to ask you a right or no, yes or no moral ethical question on this one. Okay? I think it's something you guys need to decide for yourselves on how you feel about it. I've got a number of guys in my life that I respect greatly that disagree with me on this point, and a number that agree with me on it. So, strategy of subcontractors. We said you don't really want to be too much or too little of the subcontractor's workload if you can help it. Being too much, yes, you get good response from that subcontractor, but if they go under, your whole business is going under too. If being too little, you're not going to get the response from that sub when you need extra manpower than you might otherwise. Another strategy here, you should always suspect that low bid. That bid is substantially different than everybody else. You should suspect. It's not that it never happens, but it certainly doesn't happen as much as, phrase this. A lot of times when you get that low bid, there's a reason. Every once in a while somebody does have a competitive advantage, but I suspect every time I really do my due diligence to see if there's a reason, if I can justify it. Yeah. Talk about some ethical considerations on beating up subcontractors. You know, they'll make it back up in change orders, or they'll just mark up your price the next project, or both. Treat somebody bad in this world, it's going to get around. I've had a number of you guys come to me this semester, and I have it happen every semester, and it's an understandable thing. It's one of those things that's part of your learning experience here. But you accept a internship at $15, and then along comes somebody offering you $17. You go, well, I already accepted this, but I haven't signed anything on that. And my counsel to every one of you guys is, you're right, there's nothing legally binding there. But you shook hands with somebody and said you're going to show up at work on a certain date, and you were definitely burning a bridge if you don't. And so, is there other things, mitigating things in your life to make it worthwhile? I don't know. That's for you guys to decide. But you got to understand that in this business, when you say you're going to do something, people expect you to do that. And if you fall down on that once, they will never forget it. All right. Talk about types of owners, public versus private. What are some of the things that what are some of the characteristics of a public owner? You know, they're going to be a lot more laser focused on the total number than a lot of private owners necessarily would be. You're going to have more red tape, regulations, that kind of thing associated with it. One of the differences might be that you may have to bond, whereas on a private job you may not have to. We talked about specifically some of the differences between, K-12 or ISD work and higher education versus municipal, federal, Department of Transportation. I'll go through these couple of slides. You'll be familiar with this. There's nothing in here that's shocking or complex, but you should know some of these characteristics. On a test, these are going to be phrased like, which of these projects, and I'll give 4 specific projects, is most likely to have this characteristic.
Okay. So you need to be familiar enough with these that you can address that.
Private owners, we said, may be less concerned about the total number than they are on the return on their investment. So there are additional things you can do to service a private owner that might not work in the public world, as far as coming up with alternatives, options, those kind of things. And that's just generated by, they've got a profit motive. Instead of having a hard, firm budget, they need to make a viable business enterprise. Talk about first turn, why that's important, why giving the owner even a small piece of the project is important, and that was that then the owner starts generating revenue, so it's not just a dead loss any longer. We defined a pro forma. I showed you the pro forma for Olive. You don't need to know any of the calculations associated with the pro forma. That's all stuff that if you guys choose to go get master's degrees in Maze, they'll tell you. What I needed you guys to know is that when you're working with public owners, basically there's 2 things that are in our control that have a outsized impact on their pro forma, and that is the time and the money. Okay, we tell them what the project's going to cost and how long it's going to take, and then those 2 inputs go into their magic website with all of its various machinations and spit out numbers at the end. Talk then about value engineering. And I hear a distinction in value engineering between what I term product equity. And I said that there's appropriate times for both, but most of the time when we're talking value engineering, we're really looking for something that does not have a material impact on the quality or ability or the use of the building. Okay? That's what an owner really wants. They want to know how to do the same thing cheaper, not how to do less cheaper. Less cheaper is easy. Test question on this is going to give you 4 examples and say which one is an appropriate example of value engineering as defined in lecture. Okay. If you have questions on that test question, I have a few people that don't know some of the products that I talked about. Go ahead and ask me. The big one being, does everybody know what terrazzo floors are? Okay. Anybody that doesn't, I think out here in the main portion of isn't this terrazzo? I should look that up when I came in. Yeah, that's terrazzo. The flooring that's out in the lobby right here is terrazzo. It's a poured cementitious product, and it's generally regarded as a better product than, say, just steel concrete. Right. Okay. Clarifications, assumptions, and qualifications. I gave some examples here. One of the big things I want to stress to you is that you can't qualify out things that are identified clearly in the plans. I can't say that, oh, my project doesn't include the elevator, if the elevator is included in there. Okay? It's not going to be regarded very well by the owner. I also can't qualify out things that are within my control. Means and methods issues, I cannot qualify out. All right. The 2 assignments that will be on there would be the facade assignment and the unit finishes assignment. If you guys would go look at the answer sheet on those and pick 3 or 4 items from each to memorize price and quantity. I think that, hey, you might even pick the right thing. It's on the test, but if nothing else, it'll give you some context for a educated and reasonable guess on the others. I think that's about all I need to cover on the exam. So bring the large Scantron, like we said. Does anybody have any questions on the exam or the extra credit or the site?